On behalf of YWCA Rock County, welcome and thank you all for joining us online today. To the hundreds of you who've joined our annual Stand Against Racism the past few years in person in either Beloit or Janesville, and to those of you who are joining us today for the first time, we welcome you. Welcome, welcome. Stand Against Racism is our signature campaign of the YWCA USA to build community among those who work for racial justice and to raise awareness about the negative impact of institutional and structural racism in our communities. This campaign is one part of our larger national and local strategy to fulfill the YWCA's mission of eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all, which is the YWCA mission. As we survey our current landscape and reflect on this global pandemic that is disproportionately having a negative impact on people of color, we are reminded that the work of racial justice must continue. As we collectively remember the life of Ahmaud Arbery and the manner in which his life ended, we are reminded that the work of racial justice must continue. As we think about the spring elections in Wisconsin and explore how tools of civic engagement can advance the work of racial justice in our community to empower people of color, we are reminded that the work of the YWCA must continue. As in previous years, all of the cities, villages, and towns in Rock County, as well as the county itself, the Board of Supervisors, have been asked to proclaim Stand Against Racism Day in our shared community. Here to read the City of Janesville's proclamation is City Council member Susan Johnson. The City of Janesville's proclamation was passed to coincide with our original Stand Against Racism date on Thursday, April 30th, 2020. We are so appreciative of Susan's flexibility and willingness to participate in our virtual event.
On April 27, 2020, the Janesville City Council passed Resolution 2020-1751, a resolution recognizing April 30, 2020 as Stand Against Racism Day in the City of Janesville. Whereas racism and discrimination hurt everyone and have a profound effect on children, adults, communities, and institutions, and whereas racism can take many different forms, including discrimination, personal attacks, violence, written or verbal threats, insults, damage to property, graffiti, or inequity of treatment of individuals of color, race, creed, and ethnicity by institutions, and whereas the City of Janesville recognizes that all people should be treated with dignity, respect, and justice, and whereas Stand Against Racism Day is a nationally recognized initiative with a purpose to encourage communities to raise awareness that racism still exists while offering to be part of the solution to end racism and other forms of discrimination. And whereas the YWCA USA 2020 theme is civic engagement, which is central to racial justice work, as voting rights, census, participation, and civic engagement are and have always been core components of racial justice. And whereas racism, acts of hate, violence, and disparities in our institutions based on race, religion, ethnic heritage, gender orientation, or disability not only affect the victim, but affect our entire community and nation. And whereas the City of Janesville supports the mission of YWCA Rock County to eliminate racism in our community, state, and nation. Now, Therefore be it resolved by the City of Janesville City Council on this 27th day of April 2020 that the day April 30, 2020 be recognized as Stand Against Racism Day in the City of Janesville. And be it further resolved by the City of Janesville to call upon all Janesville citizens to support celebrating diversity and promoting racial justice throughout our community.
Historically, voting rights were not open to all citizens of the United States. It took years of struggle to expand the right to vote to include women, African Americans, Asian Americans, Latinos, and Native Americans. Voter registration, protecting voting rights, and breaking down barriers to women of color running for and holding elected office are fundamental to our racial justice work. Additionally, the census is a critical lever for power and justice. The results of the 2020 census will determine the number of seats each state has in Congress. It will shape the boundaries for voting districts and will determine how much of the $6.75 billion in federal, state, and local funding supports communities around the country. Without a fair and accurate count of all in our communities, the communities most in need for Head Start, child care, domestic violence prevention, nutrition, education, health, and other federal funding will be left without sufficient resources to provide critical life-saving services that are impacting individuals and communities for generations to come. We have 3 local women who will share their story with us. Members of our community who will share with us their comments on the importance of civic engagement. First is Regina Duncan, City Council President for the City of Beloit. Next, I'd like to introduce Patty Hernandez from the School District of Janesville. And let's welcome Mayor Anissa Welch from the City of Milton.
Good afternoon. First, I want to thank the YWCA for the invitation to participate in this virtual Stand Against Racism Day and for their continued efforts to eliminate racism and discrimination throughout our entire community. My name is Regina Duncan, and I am the first female African American president of the Beloit City Council and Wisconsin State Public Defender Board. It is my hope that by serving in these leadership roles, that other girls, women, people of color, and those who may feel that they don't belong will be encouraged to become actively involved in their community. Whether it is cleaning up the neighborhood or volunteering to serve on a board or committee. I ask that each person please take a stand, learn to appreciate others who are different, and more importantly, to spread more empathy and love. We must work together to eliminate racism in our community, in our state, and in our country. I stand here today to ask everyone to please join me in working toward this worthwhile goal. I applaud you for taking time out of your day to listen to others in our community so we can all learn from each other and be better informed about how we can take a stand against racism. By standing together in this work for equity is the only way we can achieve systematic change. I truly believe by uniting as one, we can and will make the world a better place. To those younger people, I encourage you to seek education, especially listening to other voices and stories, so you can better understand the world around you. There is no time like the present to sit back and learn. Visit the library's digital collection or even request books for curbside pickup so that you can expand your horizons and learn more about a different race or culture, or even look at biographies of people like Michelle Obama, Susan B. Anthony, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, or Malala Yousafzai. The more we explore and listen to others, the closer we will get to ending racism and discrimination for all people. Thank you for taking the time to be part of this virtual Stand Against Racism Day event. Please continue to practice physical distancing, wear a cloth mask when you shop for essential items, and wash your hands. Stay safe and healthy, and together we can eliminate not only this coronavirus, but also racism and discrimination.
Hello, my name is Patty Hernandez, and I work for the School District of Janesville as their College and Career Readiness Coordinator and Principal of Tagus Leadership Academy. Thank you for attending the Stand Against Racism YWCA event. Civic engagement promotes racial justice and offers hope. Adults often ask kids, what will you be when you grow up? When I was first asked, I said I wanted to be a Rockette and work at Radio City Hall in New York. As time passed, I wanted to be an administrative assistant and then a chiropractor. I cannot tell you where any of these notions came from. My only experience of seeing a Rockette was from television, and I can thank Dolly Parton and the movie 9 to 5 for my desire to be an administrative assistant. My dad told me I could be anything I wanted to be. I did not grow up thinking that I wanted to be an active community member who was civically engaged, who worked on building a better community for all by creating connections and giving the youth a reason to stay in school and succeed in their own community. Civic engagement promotes our communities and highlights that Rock County is a great place to live. Civic engagement needs all of us to be involved. Our youth need community members to mentor them and show them how to serve the community and become civically engaged. If we are truly going to advance racial equity in our community, we must talk about it. I believe our community and our county are doing that. We must be the change we want to see in our communities. Civic engagement is and always has been central to racial justice work and to the work of the YWCA. With this year being an election year in the 2020 census, I cannot stress enough the importance of civic engagement in racial justice work. Our collective efforts can root out injustice, transform our county, and create a vibrant community that sees people of color the way they should, equal, powerful, and unstoppable. In order for our community to receive our fair share of funding for various services, it is vitally important that everyone is counted. The Complete Count Committee of Janesville is working on strategies to reach historically undercounted populations, including people of color, low-income individuals, homeless individuals, single-parent households, and people who speak English as a second language. Please reach out to individuals and households and encourage them to complete the census. Everyone must be counted in the 2020 census. The YWCA offers 3 pathways to engaging and empowering civic life in our community. 1, it provides pathways to critical consciousness. The YWCA encourages our citizens to take action in order to address the social and community problems. 2, provides pathways to action. The YWCA compels all of us to claim power and control over racism. We are encouraged to address the issue we wish to change and improve. Finally, 3rd, provides pathways to well-being. As a community, our well-being gives us a sense of purpose, optimism, hope, and direction that may result in our community to bring about social justice. As our community faces an increase of joblessness, domestic violence, overdoses, and more, hope is diminished, and it's the most significant threat to civic engagement. The YWCA, along with other community organizations, are weaving together threads of hope. Ultimately, from the fabric of civic engagement, your vote, your participation in the census, and your level of civic engagement are core components of racial justice. Education, families, teachers, neighbors, experiences all have an impact on what and who we will be. Choosing is a great opportunity. choose to join forces with many others and help our community to be a vibrant place to live, work, and play. Please participate in the 2020 census and vote in November. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Milton. I'm Mayor Welch. I would like to thank the YWCA for organizing and for inviting me to participate in the 2020 Virtual Stand Against Racism event. This year's theme of the importance of civic engagement has been enthusiastically embraced by the city in the formation of a Complete Count Committee to actively and tirelessly promote completion of the 2020 census. This has been accomplished through various outreach efforts and partnerships with communities of faith, businesses, the library, local organizations, and nonprofits. The efforts are ongoing. The census has evolved since its implementation in 1790. At that time, like so many government activities, it was used to ensure policies of slavery, racism, and discrimination remained in place. It took over 150 years for census data to become a powerful tool in overcoming those oppressive practices. The census, voting rights, advancing economic justice as it relates to marginalized communities, and especially the status of women and girls of color, are all intertwined. Eliminating barriers to census completion and voting are essential to combating the continued erosion of civil rights of our communities of color. The state of Wisconsin is currently second in the nation with a 65% census self-completion rate so far. Rock County has a 70% self-completion rate. The data collected is secure and privacy is protected. The census is one of the best ways to address health disparities that we know are killing disproportionately communities of color in the age of COVID-19. Data from the census uncovers areas of discrimination in housing and unemployment, and it ensures environmental and criminal justice reform work can continue. In addition, the data is used to enforce civil rights protections, reveal disparities that are impacted by laws and policies, to study equality in education, and to analyze whether programs meet the needs of diverse populations. Race and ethnicity data have a powerful impact on voting rights and creating congressional and legislative districts that will be determining equal representation or voter suppression. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of assisting in completion of the 2020 census to advancing racial justice work in our community. Just as Wisconsin is recognized for their historic census participation, Wisconsin was the first state to legalize absentee voting in the 1860s during the Civil War. Access to a voter ID, the ability to request an absentee ballot, have it delivered timely, get it returned to and counted by election officials is another important area of civic engagement and racial justice work we must continue to focus on in the coming months. As Layla Syed wrote, to dismantle the systems of oppression and marginalization that have hurt so many for so many generations, we need all of us. For those who hold white privilege, the contribution to this work is of the utmost importance. We can intentionally choose to disrupt and dismantle white supremacy within ourselves and our communities so everyone can live free of racism and oppression. The choice is ours. The moment is now. Help change the world. Become a good ancestor. To complete the 2020 census, go to 2020census.gov And to request an absentee ballot for the upcoming elections, go to myvote.wi.gov.
Thank you again to each of you for sharing your civic engagement story today with us. And to lead the reciting of the pledge against racism that we recite each year is the YWCA Rock County's new racial justice coordinator, Amy Levy.
Hello, my name is Amy Levy, and I am proud and excited to serve as a YWCA Rock County Racial Justice Coordinator. Thank you again for joining us for our first ever virtual Stand Against Racism. At this time, I'd ask you to stand and join me in reciting a pledge against racism. My pledge against racism. As an individual committed to social justice, I stand with YWCA Rock County against racism of any kind. I pledge to challenge any expression of racism in my presence by my family, my friends, my coworkers, and those I encounter. I will commit to a lifetime of promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all people in my community and in the world. I take this pledge fully aware that the struggle to eliminate racism will not end with a mere pledge, but calls for an ongoing transformation within myself and the institutions and structures of our society. I will challenge racial slurs, examine my own language for unconscious bias or stereotypes, recognize and avoid using language that reinforces stereotypes, learn more about and appreciate the richness of other cultures, and respect holidays and events.
Thank you again, everyone, for participating in our virtual Stand Against Racism this year. We invite you to comment on our Facebook page. We invite you to visit our website at ywcarockcounty.org to print a Stand Against Racism sign and post your selfies. If you don't have access to a printer, we encourage you to make your own sign and remember to share your photos with us so that we can share them widely. As we close, we ask that you continue your focus on standing against racism, that you recognize racism, that you eliminate racism, and that you understand that racial justice begins with just us. We look forward to seeing you in person next year at either the courthouse in Janesville or Riverside Park in Beloit. Please stay safe, commit to physical distancing, wear a mask, wash your hands frequently, and please take care. Thank you, everyone.